Okay, so let's begin looking at writing our first string parts. I have two pieces of advice. So before you even begin, as far as getting into having the right approach, the first thing I recommend is having either blank sketch paper or some sort of sketch already pre-done that you're going to do before you get into your sequencer. I find that this can really help you focus and make the best use of your time, because a lot of times what I notice is that people can get caught up in all the myriad of functions of a sequencer and sit down to compose, but actually spend a lot of time doing other things like mixing or experimenting with new sounds. So I find that having a sketch before I sit down really helps me know at least what I'm going to the general direction I'm going to be going in. And of course I am always open to happy accidents. The second thing I recommend is writing our string parts line by line. So on the surface, that may seem like it's going to take a little while longer, but not necessarily so, because I find it's a worthwhile investment to spend extra time up front doing it right the first time, rather than having to spend extra time doing revisions that again, if there's the old saying, doesn't matter how hard you're working if you're going in the wrong direction. So I find, like I said, it's best to spend as much time as needed up front to get the job done right. So now let's go ahead and let's start with our bass line and see how we record that. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is just start with my bass line, and as I recommended, I suggest starting with just a steady rhythm. In this case, we're going to use just quarter notes, and we're going to have a 2-bar phrase that I'm just going to simply repeat like a loop. So here's my phrase. And that's it. So let's go ahead and let's record that, and I'm gonna go ahead and take it down an octave. Here we go. Now let's record our second part. In this case, what we wanted was to have our lines be independent. So I'm going to give it a different rhythm. And in this case, our cello part will sound like this. And again, we're just going to stay with simple 2-bar phrases at this point. So let's go ahead, let's add that on, and here we go. And so now we can add our melody. As we talked about, effective string writing when there's 3 independent parts, that gives it a really an orchestral type sound. And adding on, we're going to use the same principles for this, the violin, as we talked about with our melody writing in chapter 1. So let's just take a listen. So we've had straight quarter notes going on in the bass. We've had, so we know we want to stay away from straight quarter notes again to give it an independence. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to delay it off the downbeat, so it comes in on the offbeat of 1, and we're just going to hold it, have a long and then 2 short. And that's going to be our melody. Let's go ahead and now let's add that on. Okay, so for the final thing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my melody line and I'm simply going to double it. What I mean by double it is I'm going to take the same line and at the same time as that's playing, I'm going to play the exact same thing but an octave higher. And we can actually do the same thing. We could even play it up another octave above that. Okay, and what I'll do is I'll play it one by one so we can hear the differences. Let's go ahead. Okay, so now that those parts have been written, of course there would still need to be some MIDI cleanup and editing to do, but we now at least achieved 8 bars of music. So let's go ahead and let's listen back to our composition.